Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Chrissy Pfeiffer, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior podcast. I am your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, and today I am so excited about the conversation we are about to have because let's be real, any woman really between the ages of 30 and 60 is most likely dealing with some kind of health issue. You know, some more serious than others, but I can guarantee that at one time or another, we've all had experiences where we are disappointed with traditional medicine, whether it's because they don't take the time to listen to us or there's not a lot of explanation about a diagnosis and not a lot of support. So that's why I'm really excited about today because Dr. Jennifer Simmons will not only talk to us about functional medicine and what that is, but she's going to share with us her own health journey as well. Dr. Jennifer Simmons attended Jefferson Medical College, completed a general surgery residency at Albany Medical Center, and was the inaugural fellow in breast disease in Philadelphia. Dr. Simmons is one of the leaders in breast surgery and cancer care in Philadelphia for over 16 years. Passionate about the idea of pursuing health rather than treating illness, she has immersed herself in the study of functional medicine and aims to provide a roadmap to those who want to know real health. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Simmons.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I relish these opportunities. I know that you started off by saying women 30 to 60, but the truth is that we are seeing women much younger come into the medical system and not getting the answers that they want, not able to get to the root of what is going on with them. And so, you know, that population just continues to expand. So functional medicine is absolutely what needs to happen. It's the medicine of now. It's the medicine of tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and you're right. I mean, it's all ages. And, you know, I know that your health journey and how you got into medicine started at a really young age. So Why don't you tell us that story?
Yeah. So I consider myself raised in a musical family. My first cousin's name was Linda Creed. Linda was considered the queen of Motown sound. She wrote all the music for the Spinners and the Stylistics in the 1970s and 1980s. And probably her most famous song was The Greatest Love of All. And that song was actually written in 1977, but it was re-released by Whitney Houston in March of 1984. And at that time, it immediately catapulted to the top of the charts, and it spent 14 weeks there at the top of the charts. But Linda would never know that because Linda died of metastatic breast cancer in April of 1984. And so
unbelievable.
Being around breast cancer really embodied my childhood. I mean, she was diagnosed when I was 9.
Wow.
And she died when I was 16. And you know, when you have someone like that in your life who's larger than life, I mean, I remember going to her house in California and we used to talk about the fact that her backyard was the size of a football field. I mean, she was a rock star in every way, shape, and form. I mean, she was beautiful and talented and wrote all of these beautiful songs. And so her life had such an impact on mine. And I talk about the fact that her life and ultimately her death gave birth to my life's purpose.
Wow.
So
That's so impactful.
fast forward 30 years. I go to medical school, I become a surgeon. I decide to become a breast surgeon because that's really where I feel like I can make my impact on the breast cancer community. And I spend 14, 15 years at the absolute top of my game. I mean, I am sought after. There's months and there's 2 months wait to see me, 2 months wait for me to operate on you. I'm doing cutting edge things that really no one else in Philadelphia is doing. And I am well regarded by my peers. I'm running the cancer program for my hospital. I am a philanthropist. I'm called on by news and local media as an expert. So much so that I won't even go to work without being just so, because I don't know if I'm going to get a phone call and a camera crew is going to show up.
Wow.
And on top of that, I'm being a wife and being a mother and trying to be really good at those, as every perfectionist does. And I'm an athlete. I'm captaining my tennis team. And I'm really thinking that I'm doing everything right. But I have a lot of balls in the air for sure. And I get a lot of like, I don't know how you do it. And I say the same thing, like, I don't know how I do it either. I just put my head down and go, right?
Right.
And until one day I couldn't. So I used to play tennis somewhere between 4 to 7 days a week.
Wow.
And I would get up first thing in the morning before the house awoke, and I would go play tennis. So I'm on the court at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had only been out for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden, like, can't catch my breath, heart is beating out of my chest. And so I naturally assume that I'm having a heart attack. And I sit down, calm down, call my doctor. What ensues over the next couple of days is a lot of blood work, a lot of tests, and I arrive at a diagnosis of Graves' disease. So this is my first autoimmune diagnosis. And what Graves' disease is an autoimmune disease of your thyroid, where you consider your thyroid gland foreign, you attack it, all those cells open up and spill all of your thyroid hormone into your system. So It causes all of those things that I was experiencing. So my heart's beating too fast, and because my heart's beating too fast, it can't fill with blood, so it can't get enough blood to my lungs to get me enough oxygen. So I literally feel like I'm suffocating.
Oh my gosh.
And because your heart is beating so fast, and because your metabolism is so revved up, you can't sleep at night. So you lie awake with your eyes wide open. The insomnia is insane. But yet you're so exhausted because you're not sleeping and you can't breathe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's a nightmare.
A horrible, horrible illness. So I'm sitting with the endocrinologist, who says to me, well, you can either have surgery to have your thyroid removed, or you can have radiation to obliterate your thyroid, or you can take lifelong medicine to suppress your thyroid function. And I sat there listening to this, feeling like it's an out-of-body experience, because this is what I tell people to do every single day. Without reservation, without hesitation, this is what I tell people to do every single day. And yet, when it's coming at me, I was like, no. I felt the same way my breast cancer patients felt. I am healthy. How could this possibly be happening to me? How could I possibly have to remove an organ that should be part of me, right? So believe me, I appreciated the irony. Believe me, I appreciated the irony.
Tables turned, right?
Exactly. And this is my very first time, but for like some sprains and broken bones and stuff like that as a result of being a lifetime athlete, this is the first time I've ever had to face illness, ever.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I didn't like being a patient. I didn't like my options. And something in my gut instinct told me, it's not for you.
It's not for you.
I had to take medicine in the short term because I couldn't afford to have a heart attack while I was
Sure.
this out. But I knew that I didn't want to do any of those permanent things. I didn't want to have my thyroid removed. I didn't want to have radiation. And so I went on an exploration and I went to Dr. Google, which I tell everyone not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But I figured, I'm a really educated consumer. I'll figure it out. And because I can't sleep anyway, I literally stayed up all night reading everyone's stories about how they healed their own thyroid disease. And the same theme came up over and over and over again: diet, 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 diet. And I thought, what's all of this about diet? And as a traditionally trained physician, because I was not overweight, thought that I knew everything there was to know about nutrition. And B, I only had 15 hours worth of education around nutrition. If nutrition were truly important, they would have taught it to me in medical school, right?
Wow.
So
yeah, absolutely.
This is the ignorance that I was suffering under. And I went to a highly accredited medical school. And believe me, I am not disparaging my school or disparaging traditionally trained physicians. That culture is one that is very, very resistant to change. And understandably so, in that when you're based in science, you want proof. But the bottom line is that we assume that if we're not taught it, it's not important. And if we don't know it, it's not true. Right? So we really do suffer a lot of ignorance in that vein.
Yeah. And it also sounds like, too, that, throughout this journey, which we'll continue to explain, but that it's not that traditional medicine isn't a piece of the puzzle, but throughout your exploration, what you found is that there's just so much more to the puzzle than what traditional medicine is offering.
Without question. And listen, there is a place for traditional medicine.
Sure.
If you have a broken bone, if you have a ruptured appendix, if you have a bacterial infection, there's a place for traditional medicine. I mean, those things need to be treated, and they need to be treated right then and there using this model. Where traditional medicine really, really fails us is in the area of chronic disease, because managing the symptoms doesn't get rid of the reason why they developed those symptoms in the first place. So I decided I would get a master's in nutrition because, to me, more information is always better. And I needed to figure out, if diet is the answer, I needed to figure out why. And so I spend the next year learning a lot about food and how food can really help to increase your health, how food is medicine. And I did in that time, I was able to correct my thyroid disease. And so about a year later, I'm definitely eating cleaner and in a way that I hadn't ate my whole life. But I'm still doing everything else that I'm doing. So I'm still burning my candle at both ends, working as a full-time surgeon, being a full-time wife, being a full-time mother, being a full-time athlete. I mean, I haven't let off of the gas at all. And then on Tuesday, October 9th of 2018, I woke up at 2:00 in the morning and my face was numb. And I thought I was having a stroke. And I ran into the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I'm like looking at my face, and it's not drooping, and I'm able to move it, but it's it's numb. I mean, it feels like I went to the dentist and the anesthesia hadn't yet worn off. But I have to be in the OR at 7 a.m.
Oh my gosh, so scary.
I go back to sleep because I have to be in the OR at 7 a.m.
Right.
And so I wake up at 5:30, and this time, not only is my face numb, but my right hand is numb. And it doesn't matter which handed you are. If you're a surgeon, you need both.
Exactly. Right? Yes.
So at that point, I didn't know, like maybe it was a stroke. Who knew? So started my workup, and I had test after test after test. And ultimately we arrived at, we don't know what's wrong with you. It may very well be MS. That's what all the symptoms point to. But it takes the average person 3 years to get an MS diagnosis.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see. And I'm
Torture.
Okay. It was one thing when you were saying remove my thyroid, radiate my thyroid. And I knew I corrected that on my own. A whole other thing to say, wait and see if you develop the horrible, horrible manifestations of MS, right?
Right. Awful.
So at the point at which I got my second autoimmune diagnosis, I said, you know what? I need to start walking my talk. I need to start practicing what I preach. And I had learned about functional medicine in my whole nutrition training. And what really enlightened me was I was listening to a talk by a man called Mark Hyman. Do you know Mark Hyman?
The name's familiar. I mean, is he like the guru of functional medicine?
He is. For all intents and purposes, he is the figurehead of the functional medicine movement.
Okay.
He's not the founder. That functional medicine was really founded by Jeffrey Bland, but he is the face of functional medicine. He's written 13 best-selling books. I mean, he has a resume that I can't even begin to. And I'm listening to him talk, and I'm listening to the things that he's talking about, the root cause of illness, the manifestations of inflammation and how it manifests differently in everyone, but that at the root of all chronic disease is inflammation. And in order to really heal, in order to really be well, in order to really know wellness, you have to arrive at that root cause. And it's not about blame or shame or what you did wrong or, blame your genetics, blame your parents. It's about figuring out how your body works best and going forward with that, because we are brilliant machines. Humans are brilliant machines, probably the most brilliant machines. We just have to give your machine what it needs. And what your machine needs is not what my machine needs, and vice versa. And so at that point, I quit my job as a surgeon. I immersed myself in the study of functional medicine. And in a year later, in October of 2019, I founded Real Health MD, mostly for the purposes of helping breast cancer patients get to the root cause of what got them to that diagnosis and help them to move forward in health, help them to not only survive, because I know there's a lot of survivors, but really help them to thrive.
Yeah.
Because if you continue on the same path that got you to breast cancer, what's next? And you're always looking for the what's next, right? You're always looking for the recurrence. You're always looking for the cancer in the other breast. You're always looking for what's next. But I want the what's next to be health. I want to change the dialogue. And so in my work with my patients, that's what I do. Now, as it turns out, breast cancer is just one manifestation of inflammation. there are lots others like autoimmune disease, like my experience. And so I know that I can help just about everyone.
Right. Because everybody has inflammation and, just manifesting in different disease states.
Yeah. So I heard a frightening statistic today, and that's that only 12% of Americans are metabolically normal, meaning that only 12% of Americans lack obesity, diabetes, prediabetes, or hypertension.
Wow. That is insanely crazy low amount.
Insane. And unfortunately, for the most part, I think that it's tied to our food and our food system.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've heard that from other physicians, and I think that there is such a movement these days with the fact that what we are putting in our bodies, and I always equate our bodies to machines, and I tell my kids all the time, I try to get them to understand that your body is a machine, and what you're putting into it is food and fuel for that machine, that you have to really think that way. And I think that more and more people are starting to understand how important it is to, really focus on what we're putting in our body. But I don't know if everyone truly understands that food is medicine, that food can be used as medicine. And not only can it help us be healthy, but it can help to reverse sickness and help to reverse disease.
Without question. Well. So, thinking along those lines, we're very quick to prescribe, right?
Yes.
Traditional medical doctors, what we're trained to do is we're trained to identify a constellation of symptoms, give them a title, a disease, and then prescribe a medicine to manage those symptoms. If we would back up and prescribe broccoli, we would eliminate at least 80% of our chronic disease.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, a frightening statistic. If you look at metabolic disease and the amount of time that it takes to reverse, to turn it around, it's weeks.
Wow. That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
You can be metabolically normal in weeks. So, and we see that born out of the literature from traditional medicine, because you see these people that get gastric bypass surgery, and within 3 weeks, their diabetes is gone. Well, it's not that they didn't lose 100 pounds in 3 weeks. They maybe lost 10, 15, 20 pounds. They didn't lose 100 pounds, and yet their diabetes is gone. So metabolic flexibility comes back very, very quickly. And I only hope that people understand that as a great opportunity and an encouragement to make the change. Because, if we were a metabolically flexible society, and I'm sure you don't want to get into talk about COVID, but COVID would not have this impact on us if we were a metabolically flexible society. It just wouldn't. And you look at that population of, under 30s, they're almost always asymptomatic. Why? Because they're metabolically flexible, because they don't have inflammation. And if you don't have underlying inflammation, things like this have very little effect on you.
Yeah. Wow. So let me ask you this though, too, because I think there's a lot of people out there too that might say, okay, so I eat really well. I watch what I eat. I get my broccoli, I get my vegetables, I do my green smoothie, whatever it may be. But then there's probably so many other little things just in our lifestyles that like maybe it's drinking out of plastic bottles or, like eating something out of a can, whatever it may be, like things that we don't even think of that are in our environment, they're environmental triggers or whatever it may be that is part of our lifestyle that could also be harming us as well, right?
Without question. So I get this question all the time. I do everything right and I still got breast cancer. How is that possible?
Yes, exactly.
And I don't want to get into like the blame shame thing because it doesn't help. But I am able to look at all of those pillars of health that you were just mentioning. Yeah. Definitely food is one of them. And believe me, I thought that I was doing everything right in terms of food. And we mostly don't understand what that means. So, you could be eating all the right foods, but if you're eating every 2 hours because you were told that small meals throughout the day is better, guess what? Every time you eat, that's another immune challenge, another immune challenge, another immune challenge. Every time you eat, your immune system, which 70 to 80% of which lives in your gut, every time you eat, your immune system has to check that food out. So You're eating lots of small meals throughout the day, your immune system is exhausted. And that's when it develops. Okay?
Wow.
It's not always about what you're eating, because maybe you're eating the right foods, but you're not eating them at the right times. So that's part of it. Movement is a tremendous part of it, because if you're leading a sedentary lifestyle, it has impacts across the board with your health. So, I don't like to talk about exercise because I don't think that is as important, but under exercise and over exercise is a huge problem. An inactive lifestyle or an over exerciser, these are things that are going to have ramifications against your health. And then we talk about things like you mentioned toxins. Toxins are a huge issue. The average woman puts 151 chemicals on her skin before she goes out the door in the morning.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Starts her day, 151 chemicals. And all of these chemicals have meaning in your body, and the poison is in the dose. So if you think about the different organ systems as buckets, and the rain is inflammation, is toxins, is chemicals, in terms of your breast, those buckets are small. They get filled up fast. Your breast doesn't tolerate a lot of toxins. And the reason is because your breasts are made up of the glandular tissue, the stuff that makes milk, and fat. And fat is where we store all of our toxins. So if you're taking in a lot of toxins, they're getting stored up in your breast. What do you think is going to happen there? You're going to develop a breast cancer, especially in an exhausted system that can't fight. You're going to get a breast cancer. So toxins are a huge thing, and we get them from all different ways. We breathe them in, we put them on our skin, we eat them. If you're drinking water, one of the best things that you can do is to stop drinking water out of anything but a glass or a metal bottle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great tip. I mean, honestly, because as we all I have to tell you that I think as a mom, as a woman, I think about it every single time I pick up that heavy ass case of water and throw it on my cart. And I think to myself, what am I doing? Yes, it's convenient, but it's so bad.
Get a water filter and drink out of the tap.
Yeah.
Really, truly. Like it's the best thing that you can do. Or get a Berkey water filtration system. Just get a water filter and drink out of the tap.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a great piece of advice. And that's going to be my first to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, my kids do it, right? My kids have their Hydro Flask and their swells. Yeah, exactly.
And that's just how you live. It just becomes normal.
The new normal, the new habit. And that's going to be my goal from this podcast.
And especially around this time, I feel I have to talk about stress because, Stress is everywhere. Everyone has it, no matter who you are, rich or poor, single, married, it doesn't matter. Everyone has stress, everyone. The stress itself isn't the problem. It's the meaning you give to it that's the problem. And it's hard to constantly maintain a positive outlook. I understand, especially under these circumstances where there is so much uncertainty for all of us. But you have to come up with a technique that works for you, that when you feel it creeping in, you can halt that in its tracks. So I love a technique called 4-7-8 breathing, where when you feel that creeping in, you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, you breathe out for 8, you do that 4 times. You can do that anywhere, and that will change that dynamic. That will signal to your brain, instead of panicking, instead of going down that stress cascade, it will signal to your brain everything's okay. There's no reason to panic. So that's like a little tool that I use. But the other thing that you can do if you feel it, and you can, is get up and go for a walk outside. 2 minutes. Get up and change your position. If you change your physical space, you change your mental space.
Yep.
So some way of, listen, everyone is not going to become a meditator. I get it. If you can develop that skill, awesome.
Yeah.
If you have access to ways to develop that skill, awesome. And I know that there are a lot of programs that are giving their mindfulness training away for free right now, which is wonderful. And if you're able to take advantage of that, great. And if you're just not so far from that space that you can't imagine it, everyone can deep breathe. Everyone can learn to take deep breaths, and that's free. So
absolutely.
I often get come out with the, well, what you're talking about is elitist medicine. Well, no, I'm really not. I'm really talking about things that everyone can do for free. Everyone can walk outside. Everyone can connect with nature. Everyone can deep breathe. Right? So
yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
absolutely.
building up your toolkit with things that can help you manage stress is very, very important. And then the other thing is sleep. We are so focused on the awake life that we have devalued sleep. And when you devalue sleep, you take away your body's ability to heal. So if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. Sleep is the time when we kind of assimilate everything that we took in over that day. And that includes food, it includes light, it includes information. So we decide what to keep, we decide what to purge. And that is our time to reset. And if you're not resetting, then how on earth are you going to be ready for the next day? How is your brain going to be ready? How is your body going to be ready? How are your muscles going to be ready? They're not. You have to sleep in order to be healthy. And yet this society, we think of sleep as lazy, unimportant. And so here we are, a society where only 12% of us are metabolically healthy, right? So we need to rethink the way that we feel about sleep. We need to value sleep. We need to protect sleep. Sleep hygiene is so, so, so important. And all the ways to make sleep hygiene important are free.
Yeah, right.
Don't eat after the sun goes down. Limit your exposure to blue light after the sun goes down. Make sure that you're in bed by 10 o'clock. All these, watch the sunset. That's one of the best biohacks, is to watch the sunset, because that tells your brain, oh, it's time to get ready for sleep.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's so funny. Had no idea. I love a sunset.
yeah, so that's one of the
That's,
best health hacks is to watch the sunset. It's free to watch the
yeah.
sun.
You know, I feel like I know that we talked about how much valuable information you have to share and that I need to have you on for another episode. I really think that I could have you on another episode and just talk about sleep because I think that to your point, it is something that we need to value more as part of our healing process, as part of our life, as part of our health journey. And I know from a lot of the clients that I work with that are, in this sort of perimenopausal, menopausal age,
Yep.
that sleep is tough. They are struggling. They're struggling to either fall asleep, struggling to stay asleep, and lots of restless nights. And I think that to your point when we were actually talking before the podcast, and you said, we get told so many times by traditional medicine, well, sorry, that's just how it is. And, it's like, oh, sorry, you're menopausal. So your hormones are all off. And so you're not going to sleep well. And you just kind of say, oh, okay, I guess I accept that. But we don't have to accept it. There are ways that we can manage our health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately a bill of goods that is sold to us by the traditional medical community because they don't know how to intervene. Because the way to intervene there, the way to balance hormones is to make sure that you're eating in a thoughtful way that's right for you, and make sure that you have a movement routine, which is the right movement for you and enough movement for you. Making sure that you have tools to deal with the stressors in your life, making sure that you are minimizing your toxic exposure, and making sure that you have meaning in your life, because life's purpose has a tremendous effect on our health. So
Yeah.
things that
I
traditional medicine
love that.
doesn't know what to do. So, you come in and say you're not sleeping and they say, well, it's hormonal. Well, guess what? We can balance hormones. We can
Yeah.
balance hormones.
Oh
And
my gosh.
it's not normal to feel badly. It's just not. And
Yeah.
if you are, I acknowledge, yes, you're out of balance, but that doesn't mean that you can't come back in. Right?
Oh, that is, I love that because I feel like sometimes it just feels so hopeless when you're not feeling well. And, so I, I want to encourage everyone who's listening today to go to Dr. Jennifer Simmons' website and check out Real Health MD, because right there you can see all that she's about functional medicine, what her practice does, and how you can reach out to her to get a consult. Because I think that there are so many options out there for us that we just don't know about. And, we have to be our own suburban warriors. We have to take control and use our own personal power to get ourselves well. And, sometimes that is just reaching out to the right resources like yourself.
But I want to be clear, it is in your power. And
it is.
I believe for everyone, there is a road to healing. There is a path to healing, and they just need guidance on their path. It's just about giving guidance on their path. And that's really our mission at Real Health MD, is to help guide people on their path to wellness. So, if I would love it if people would follow me on Instagram, because I'm putting these tidbits out there every single day. I'm
awesome.
Very
Can you tell us? Yes, tell us what your Instagram is.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Dr. Jenn Simmons with 2 N's, Dr.
Okay.
J-N-N Simmons, Simmons. And literally, and that does carry through to my Facebook, so you can follow me on Real Health MD. You can follow me at Dr. Jennifer Simmons on Facebook. But I'm really thoughtfully putting out content every single day for people, because I know that everyone needs access to all of these things that promote wellness. And it's not about access to me, because access to me is limited, right? I'm only one person. but my message can help many.
I love it. I love it. And an amazing message that it is, from your journey as a teenager to being a breast cancer surgeon and to now into functional medicine, and your mission to really help us all on our health journey. Dr. Simmons, thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to have you back to get in more detail on some of these subjects.
Yeah.
But for today, thank you so much. And guys, make sure to check out Dr. Jenn Simmons on Instagram. You can follow me also at Suburban Warrior, and we'll have all the website links in the show notes. So until next time, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you later.